Good afternoon, Dr. Alif and everyone. We are from FPC Section 1. I'm Faustina.
And I'm Naura.
And we are here to explain our FPC pair assignment. First of all, allow us to explain the overview features of our basal metabolic rate app or calculator, which helps users estimate the number of calories their body needs per day based on their personal data. The program is assigned with the following features. So the first feature is functions, where this program is divided into functions called user data, where user inputs their data and calculate BMR to calculate the BMR according to the original BMR formula to make the structure more understandable and improve its readability. And then the second one is the user input collection, where the program asks the user to input their personal data, which includes gender, male or female, ages 15 to 80, height in centimeters, and weight in kilograms. This data is required so that the program can calculate the BMR accurately. The program also restricts age input within a reasonable range, which is 15 to 80 years old, to ensure meaningful results according to the user's age.
Okay, so our third feature is BMR calculation function. This program uses a user-defined function called calculate BMR. The original formula is 10 times weight plus 6.25 times height minus 5 times age. In addition, it applies an additional equation based on gender, where for males, it adds 5 to the BMR formula, and for females, it subtracts 161. This ensures correct calculation using the standard BMR equation. Our fourth feature is result display. So after calculation, the program displays the user's BMR in calories per day. And our last feature is loop for repeated use. The program allows the user to do multiple calculations by asking whether they want to continue or not. It will repeat the process until the user chooses to exit.
Okay, so now I'll explain the pseudocode for our program, where in every pseudocode we always begin with start, and then we will call the do-while statement, where it will execute the program at least once. So in the do-while statement, we call the user data, and then we call the second function, which is the calculate BMR with the variables gender, weight, height, and age. And then it'll display your BMR is, and then the calculation for the BMR, calories per day. And then next it'll display do you want to calculate again, where the user will enter Y or N, which is yes or no, and the user will input their choice. And if the user keeps inputting the Y choice, either lowercase or uppercase, it'll keep looping until the user enters a different choice, which is the no, and then it'll end the main function. Next is the user data function, where it'll display enter gender, male or female, and then the user inputs the gender, display enter age 15 to 80, and then the user inputs the age, display enter height in centimeters, where the user will input the height, and then display enter weight in kilograms, and the user will input the weight, and that function will end. And then the second and last function is the calculate BMR function with the variables gender, weight, height, and age. If gender is equals to male, then it'll return the value 10 times weight plus 6.25 times height minus 5 times age plus 5. Else, if the user enters the gender as female, then it'll return the value 10 times weight plus 6.25 times height minus 5 times age and minus 161. And then it'll end the if statement, and that function will end.
Okay, so next we have the flowchart, but before I explain the flowchart of the main function, I will first explain the flowchart of the user-defined functions. The first user-defined function is the user data function, where it starts with an oval shape labeled as user data because oval represents the start or end of a process. From there, we have a series of parallelograms which represent input and output operations. The first one displays the prompt enter gender, male or female, followed by another parallelogram to read the gender input. This pattern repeats for age, height, and weight. Display the prompt and then read the value. Finally, the flowchart ends with another oval showing return gender, age, height, and weight, passing all collected data back to the main program. So the next user-defined function is the calculate BMR function, where it also begins with an oval labeled as calculate BMR, receiving gender, age, height, and weight as the parameters. It then hits a diamond shape where it represents decisions or conditions. Here it checks if gender equals to male, because if yes, it goes right into a rectangle, which represents a process, and calculates the BMR using a male formula, which is 10 times weight plus 6.25 times height minus 5 times age plus 5. If no, it goes down and uses the female formula. Same base, but minus 161 instead. Both paths then converged at a final oval, which is return BMR. Okay, so the last flowchart is for the main function, where it starts with a start oval. It then flows into a rectangle calling the user data function, which collects the user's information. Next, another rectangle calls calculate BMR function, passing in the 4 values. The result is then displayed using a parallelogram labeled display BMR. After that, another parallelogram asks, do you want to calculate again? Yes or no? This leads to a diamond checking if the choice equals to Y in lowercase or Y in uppercase, because if it's true, it loops back up to the user data rectangle, repeating the whole process, and if it's false, it falls down to the end oval, terminating the program. That is all for our assignment explanation. Thank you for your attention and see you. Bye.